Reverend Point Blank is in the building. Welcome to CHUCH. We just chillin'.
Wake up, black people. Your time is now.
Nobody can break a united people. Love each other. Support each other. One love. Your fellow black man is not your enemy, but a brother. Therefore, do not betray your brother. Stand by.
Yeah, from the west side of the Chi, Reverend Point Blank, let the truth testify.
They want to frame it, this submission thing, a trick of the past, a negative script from the slave ship, a shadow they want us to cast. But that ain't the blueprint for a queen, that ain't the way we build a last. True submission is a sacred bond, a covenant that's built on trust. It's two crowns moving as one unit, turning generational trauma into dust. A king and his queen on the same mission, navigating the diaspora's rust. So rise up, my sister, to your power, let them see what real unity does. That ain't no surrender, that's a strategy powered by ancestral love.
That's Point Blank.
To all my brothers and sisters, this is about kings and princes, and the queens and the princesses that wear the ancestral diaspora's crown. Ladies, a true king, a real man, will worship your presence and will never let you down. He will see the strength that you carry and the power in your name. Far from any submission, you are the master of this game. This word submission is a relic, a trap from the past, a shadow from the chains, and a lie that will not last. But understand the meaning, strip the chains from the core. In unity and purpose, it's our strength forevermore. It's two hearts in rhythm, an agreement in the glory of the light, building up a legacy and standing tall in this fight. No woman of mine is hidden 10 paces behind the dust. She's my partner in this movement, the one I truly trust. Ladies, you have the power to build and make heaven or hell. Please choose to lift your brother up and break the silent spell. If a man feels the support of his queen in his soul, there is nothing on earth that can stop his control. But we've been brainwashed, bamboozled, and led to the street, chasing the things, the paper, and accepting this defeat. Queens, judging a man by his pocket will lose the best of our breed. Separation and loneliness, that's the harvest of the karma seed. It's time to break the blindness, see the ancestors' face, restore the love and the wisdom in our ancient race. The judgment is here. Look back to the source. We are the voices of the diaspora, staying steady on this course. No looking at the ashes, no glancing at the rear. The vision of the future and the mission is very clear. Welcome to CHUCH, where the truth is raw and real. The power of the word and the mission is clear. With Mike and Mika on the mic, breaking down what we revere. Spin that track I wrote, and let the beat roll out while the voices of dysphoria show what life is all about. Point Blank.
We are the voices of diaspora. I am the Reverend Point Blank. Welcome to CHUCH. I'm here to make the truth perfectly clear. If you don't know yourself first, then the end is very near. Before you build a business, a relationship must be in place. But it starts within your soul before you join the human race. To love another person while you're a stranger to your heart. Eyes a recipe for a train wreck before you even start. Without this inner knowledge, you are just a system, a slave, digging out a hollow life until you hit the grave. Most men go their entire lives and never understand how to lead with quiet power or to hold a steady hand. They chase after the women and they try to prove their worth, but attraction dies in shadows when they grovel on the earth. Women don't respond to words or the logic speak, they respond to emotional positions. And they never want the weak. They are watching for a pattern, and they're looking for a frame, while the average man is losing just by playing the wrong game. The first truth you must realize is that power comes from test. She will challenge every boundary to see if your spirit rests. When she cancels on the plans or she waits to text you back, she is looking for a fracture or a subtle little crack. If you rush to fix the mood or you start to justify, the respect she had for you will surely wither up and die. Real power isn't proven by a loud and fast reaction. It is proven by the calm that keeps her under your attraction. The second secret stings because it goes against the grain. Desire grows in space while pressure leads to only pain. If you fill up every silence and you're always in her side, you remove the mystery and you kill the inner light. When you stay too available, you're easy to replace, because value only lives within a self-respecting space. Move forward with your life when the plans begin to stall, for the man who doesn't chase is the one who has it all. The third truth is a pillar that you must forever keep. Respect comes before affection, or the fall is fast and steep. If you sacrifice your boundaries just to keep a little peace, the weight of her disdain for you will only just increase. A man who needs approval is a man who cannot lead, but a man who says no firmly has a very different breed. Be comfortable alone and let your presence be a light, and you'll find that being magnetic is a sovereign's birthright. The fourth and final secret is that leadership is key. By directing all the energy, you set the spirit free. When the tension starts to rise, you must be the one who's grounded, so the strength of your own character is never once confounded. Leadership is silence in the way you hold your tone. It's the mastery of self when you are standing all alone. Knowledge without discipline will change no part of life. It will only lead you back into a world of storm and strife. If you always rush to fix things, you are teaching them your fear, and the doubt within your position will be made incredibly clear. Real calm is not a mask, it is a life that's full and firm, operating on your own and on your very own life term. Stop explaining every move and stop chasing for a sign, and you'll find the stars of destiny will finally align. This is self-rule, it's the mastery, it's the art of manhood's rank. I'm the Reverend, and I'm giving it to you point blank, 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 blank.
So, everyone listening right now, you are a learner. Welcome to another custom-tailored deep dive. And I want you to imagine stepping into a brand new job.
Okay, setting the scene.
Right, so you go through the whole hiring process, you show up, you start learning the ropes, and then 4 days into it, you just look around, pick up the phone, call your boss, and say, hey, keep the money. I am never coming back.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that is just a staggering level of self-assurance.
It really is.
Because, most of us, we negotiate with the systems around us, we compromise, we just take the paycheck. But the individual we are looking at today, he seems to operate from this baseline assumption that established systems are just fundamentally flawed, like they're just not worth his time at all.
Exactly. And today we are diving deep into a text from a man who did exactly that, and honestly, so much more. This is a text that's part memoir, part sociological critique, and part apocalyptic prophecy.
It covers a lot of ground.
It really does. And the author introduces himself with a title that basically tells you everything you need to know about how he views authority. He calls himself the Reverend point-blank witicizer of comedy, the Royal Juster.
Which is just a brilliant contradictory string of identifiers, right?
Yeah, totally.
It immediately disarms you, but at the same time, it demands a very specific kind of respect.
Right. And just to give you all an overview, the text we're analyzing is this introductory manifesto for a platform and a show called Take It to the Nine. It's brought to you by an entity known as the Voices of Diaspora.
But he also uses these incredibly casual, disarming phrases for the project, like "Welcome to CHUCH," and that's spelled CHUCH, and we just chillin'.
Yeah, the branding is a whole study in contrasts, which we are absolutely going to get into. But before we really jump into the deep end here, It's probably worth clarifying what "take it to the nine" even means in this context.
Yeah, that's a good point. So the phrase traditionally stems from, dressing to the nines, meaning to the absolute limit of perfection.
Right, going all out.
Exactly. And in numerology and a lot of cultural contexts, the number 9 often represents the end of a cycle. It's the highest single digit before you return to a new cycle of 10.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so the author is really signaling this desire to push his community to their absolute limit of potential, to complete this historical cycle and start something completely new.
And he has a very specific, and I mean highly controversial, blueprint for how to reach that perfection. Because, look, this text makes some massive claims. He aggressively critiques modern gender roles, he completely re-engineers historical and biblical narratives, and he takes aim at the literal foundation of modern economic success.
Right. And we should establish right up front, for you listening, our job today is not to play judge and jury on this.
Exactly. We are not taking sides.
Right. We aren't here to endorse these views or debate whether his theology is objectively true or if his social critiques apply universally.
No, not at all. Our role is basically cartography. We are mapping out the architecture of his belief system completely impartially.
Yes. We want to understand the psychological environment he grew up in, the underlying logic of how he connects global history to modern dating, and why he believes his community is on the edge of this massive spiritual awakening.
We're just looking at the world purely through the lens of his map, as it's presented in the source material.
Exactly. And to understand the map, you really have to understand where the cartographer was born, right?
What his origin story.
Yeah, because his origin story is the engine for everything else. He explicitly grounds his identity in the west side of Chicago, which he refers to, with a capital T and S, as the Chi.
Now that line caught me immediately because he draws this very sharp, deliberate distinction in how he describes his upbringing there. He says, quote, "I grew up in the hood, but I'm not ghetto."
Right, he acknowledges the environment as a crucible, basically.
Yeah, it's a classic hero's journey setup. He says he was molded in survival on the streets, but he vehemently pushes back against the idea that the streets dictated his mental landscape. He says he was never ghetto-minded and never stayed boxed in.
What he's articulating there is, it's a profound theory of psychological sovereignty.
Oh, I like that. Psychological sovereignty.
Yeah, because he's separating physical geography from mental geography. I mean, a lot of sociological texts treat individuals as just products of their environment, right? Like, if you are born in a crucible, you become the shape of the crucible.
All right, you are what your neighborhood makes you.
Exactly. But the Reverend point blank is arguing the exact opposite. He's claiming that the environment provided the pressure, the stakes of survival, but he determined the shape of his own mind. He used it as a training ground, not a prison.
And the way he talks about his education just completely reinforces that. He does not credit the Chicago public school system for his intellect.
No, not at all.
He credits this specific individual, a mentor on the streets, named Mr. T. Lloyd Taylor.
Yeah, he paints Mr. Taylor as this definitive guiding force from the time he was just 9 years old.
Right, 9 years old on the blocks of the West Side. And the specific lesson he highlights from T. Lloyd Taylor is so fascinating. He says, "School. I wasn't about recess. T taught me not just to play, but to thrive."
It's basically a total rejection of the institutional social contract.
Yeah, he frames formal education as trivial, like recess, while the real education happened on the block.
Right, because the traditional narrative we're all fed is that formal education is the only legitimate pathway to success. You go to class, you follow the curriculum, you get the degree.
Right.
But he flips that entirely. He sees the institution as inherently disconnected from the actual reality of survival.
And he takes that rejection to this hilarious extreme when he talks about high school. He literally claims that his only motivation for going to high school was, quote, "to make a buck."
Which is such a subversive power dynamic when you think about it.
He says he ended up making more money than the teachers.
Imagine being a student, sitting in a classroom, looking at the authority figure at the chalkboard, and knowing that you are out-earning them through your own localized, street-level enterprise.
It completely shatters the illusion of the teacher's authority.
Exactly. I mean, why should he listen to their life advice or follow their curriculum when his alternative methods are yielding, higher tangible returns?
He monetized his high school experience. He didn't view it as a place of learning. He viewed it as a market with a captive demographic.
Right, applying those survival skills to bypass the intended function of the school entirely.
And that profound anti-institutional streak carries directly into his views on adult labor. Which brings us back to that incredible 4-day job stint we mentioned at the start.
Oh yeah, the Osaka water story.
Yeah. He makes this sweeping, capitalized declaration in the text, "I have never had a job in my life." But then he offers this one tiny exception. He worked at a place called Osaka Water for exactly 4 days.
And the way he resigns is just the critical piece of that anecdote.
He calls them up and says, "Keep the money. I am not coming back." He doesn't just quit. He refuses the compensation for the time he already spent there.
Yeah, by telling them to keep the money, he is making a huge philosophical statement. He's severing the fundamental mechanism of wage labor.
Right, the agreement that you trade your time for capital.
Exactly. By rejecting the capital after giving the time, he is saying, my autonomy is worth infinitely more than whatever you were going to pay me for those 4 days. It's like he's saying, I don't even want your currency, it taints me.
It's the ultimate flex of independence.
Ugh.
But, okay, I am just so fascinated by how he funds his life with this mindset. But before we get into his travels, I have to ask you about his chosen title.
The Royal Jester.
Yeah, I mean, he hates traditional jobs, ignores traditional schooling, even says, nope, not me, to being a traditional preacher, and instead crowns himself the witicizer of comedy and the royal jester.
It's a very specific choice.
Why a jester? This text deals with 400 years of historical trauma, completely restructuring male and female dynamics. It's heavy, heavy material. Why adopt the persona of a clown
In the entire kingdom who had permission to mock the king, critique the court, and speak absolute, unvarnished truths without facing the executioner?
Oh, because it was framed as a joke. The humor was basically a Trojan horse for the truth.
Precisely. If a nobleman criticized the king's economic policy, it was treason. But if the jester sang a ridiculous song about the king's empty coin purse, it was entertainment, but the message still landed.
That makes so much sense.
By claiming the title of the Royal Jester, the author is positioning himself as an outsider. He's telling us that he operates completely outside the established hierarchy of respectability.
He isn't bound by the polite rules of the establishment.
Right. He can deliver these massive, uncomfortable critiques of society because he deliberately removed himself from the societal structures that could punish him for it.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have a boss to fire him, you know?
Right.
He doesn't have a traditional congregation that can vote him out. He has absolute freedom of speech.
Which makes his brief interaction with the entertainment industry make perfect sense in the text. He mentions going out to California, but he refuses to even call it by its real name.
Oh, Follywood.
Yeah, he calls it so-called Follywood, L-A-A-H.
Yeah.
And he dismisses the entire culture out there as fake cliquish.
Right, so the jester travels to the modern court of kings. The entertainment industry takes one look at the artificiality and the power structures and just decides it's completely lacking in authenticity.
He recognizes that Hollywood demands its own kind of subservience to the claque.
Yeah.
And he's just like, nope, I refuse to play that game.
Exactly. But you know, we have this fiercely independent, anti-establishment figure who views almost all traditional societal structures as traps.
Right.
But he doesn't exist in a vacuum. He makes a very deliberate point to ground all of this rebellious energy in a highly specific traditional foundation, which is his family.
Yes, he dedicates his work and essentially his foundational moral compass to his parents. He refers to his mother as Queen Lorene Johnson and his father as Andrew Johnson.
And the specific lessons he attributes to them are fascinating because they sound incredibly traditional compared to the rest of his persona.
Yeah, they really do. He says his mother taught him how to, quote, love, respect, and honor women. And his father taught him how to protect and take care of and support a family.
Which reveals this crucial duality in his worldview. For a man who rejects the structural authority of schools and corporations, his internal moral architecture is rigidly structured around the micro-community of the family.
He views the external world as something to be navigated or hustled, but the internal world of the family is sacred ground.
Right. It demands honor, protection, and provision.
He also extends that sense of deep loyalty to a woman named Rhonda Dunwood, who he describes as a 40-year friend and business partner.
Which just proves that his rejection of traditional structures doesn't mean an inability to maintain long-term connections. He just chooses connections based on genuine loyalty rather than, institutional obligation.
Right. And that bedrock of localized familial loyalty is what allowed him to eventually launch himself out into the broader world. Which brings us to the next massive phase of his life.
Yes, the transition from the west side of Chicago to becoming what we could basically call a nomadic theologian.
Yeah, it's a profound shift in scale.
Yeah.
He leaves Chicago and ends up in Texas. But he doesn't just pass through. The text outlines that he enrolls in a seminary and studies there for 4 years.
Which is wild to think about.
I am struggling so hard to picture the royal jester sitting in a seminary classroom for 4 years. How does a guy who bypassed high school curriculum submit to the rigorous dogmatic structure of theological training?
It speaks to a deep, underlying hunger for foundational truth. While he might reject the delivery systems of education like high school, he clearly does not reject knowledge itself.
Right, he wanted the actual information.
Exactly. He wanted to understand the structural mechanics of faith and religion, and he didn't just study it. He states he pastored a church in Texas for another 4 years.
So for 8 years, he essentially became the establishment. He became the authority figure at the front of the room.
Yes.
But obviously that couldn't contain him forever, because the text reveals he eventually leaves that localized church structure to travel the globe.
He claims to have traveled to 66 different countries.
Again, the logistics of this are just wild.
Yeah.
A man who proudly declares he has never had a traditional job somehow funds global travel across 66 countries. He must have taken that localized West Side hustle. You know, the ability to read people, find a market, thrive outside the system, and scaled it internationally.
He essentially treated the world as his new blocks. But the most important aspect of this travel isn't the logistics. It's the theological synthesis he arrives at.
Like,
Because he states that during his time in these 66 countries, he studied, quote, every religion.
and his conclusion from studying every major faith system on earth, he writes it very simply. The principles, every principle is the same.
Which is a perspective of radical universalism.
Yeah, explain that a bit more.
Well, when you're isolated in one culture, the specific rituals, the specific names of deities, and the dogmas, they all feel like the absolute truth, right?
Right.
But when you move across 66 different cultural landscapes, you start to see the underlying scaffolding. You realize that underneath the varying cultural paint jobs, human beings are largely building the same moral architectures.
He's saying that whether you are in a temple in Asia, a mosque in the Middle East, or a church in Texas, the core human attempts to understand the divine and find purpose, they all share the exact same genetic code.
Exactly. However, he doesn't use this realization to just sing a song of global harmony.
No, definitely not.
He uses this realization to launch a devastating historical critique. Because if all the principles are the same, then the differences, the conflicts, the hierarchies, they were artificially constructed.
And he writes a phrase in all capital letters that serves as the pivot point for his entire historical worldview, he says. They changed the names to protect the guilty.
This is where his universal theology becomes a localized, targeted accusation of historical theft.
They changed the names to protect the guilty.
Yeah.
It's such a chilling phrase. It makes me think of a detective who spent decades studying separate, isolated cold cases all across the country.
Right.
And one day they put all the files on a single desk, look at the underlying MO, and realize, wait, these aren't isolated incidents. This is the work of a single coordinated syndicate using aliases.
That is a phenomenal way to visualize his argument. He is accusing the authors of Western history, and specifically Western religious history, of perpetrating identity theft on a cosmic, civilization-altering scale.
And he applies this directly to the foundational text of his own faith. Because later in the manifesto, he states unequivocally that all of the original disciples were black men, but that their true identities and racial realities were purposefully obscured by historical authorities.
Right.
The names, or at least the visual representations and cultural contexts of those names, were changed to protect the guilty.
And we have to pause here and look at the mechanics of why a thinker like him would make this specific claim. And again, just as an impartiality check for the listener, we are examining his personal revisionist history to understand his broader message.
Right, exactly. We're looking at why he is saying this.
Because to understand it, we must look at what he says has been lost. He argues that the black diaspora has been, quote, raped of our History, Family, Education, Freedom Act.
He views history as something that was violently extracted from his community.
Yes. Because when a dominant power wants to subjugate a people, physical chains are only the first step.
Right.
The ultimate control requires psychological chains. and the most effective psychological chain is severing a people from their divine and historical lineage.
If you can convince a group of people that they have no historical greatness and that the divine figures of their own faith look like they're oppressors rather than themselves, you create this profound internalized subjugation.
Precisely. So, by claiming that the biblical disciples were black men, he isn't just engaging in a theological debate, he's engaging in a massive psychological rescue mission.
Oh, a rescue mission.
Yeah, he is attempting to graft his community back onto the tree of divine history. He believes the historical narrative was weaponized to protect the systems and empires that benefited from the enslavement of African peoples.
So he's taking the most revered figures in Western religion and reappropriating them to restore a sense of ultimate cosmic dignity to the diaspora. And if the history was corrupted at the very root to break the community, then the community can't be healed by surface-level fixes. It has to be rebuilt from the absolute bedrock.
Right.
And for the Reverend Point Blank, that foundational bedrock isn't just theology, it is the intimate day-to-day dynamic between men and women.
Which leads directly into the most complex, layered, and controversial section of his entire manifesto.
Yeah, this is where we confront the concept of submission.
It's a huge shift in the text.
It is. He introduces this massive topic through a poem titled, Welcome to Church. And I want to be super clear about the tone he uses toward women in this poem, because it is elevated to the point of literal reverence.
He addresses the women of the diaspora as queens and my princesses, who wear the diaspora's crown.
He goes even further than just royal titles. He explicitly writes, "We worship your presence and will never let you down." And then he delivers this line that feels like the thesis statement of how he views female power. He says, "Far from any submission, you're the masters of the game."
Masters of the game. He is attributing absolute strategic and foundational authority to women here. He's not portraying them as secondary characters at all.
No, he's portraying them as the architects of reality.
Right.
Which makes what happens next in the text so incredibly jarring. Because immediately following this poem where he calls women the masters of the game and says, "Far from any submission," he recounts a conversation with a friend.
Yeah.
And the entire conversation revolves around his desire for black women to submit to black men by the year 2026.
The friend in the text is basically acting as the proxy for the reader's confusion.
Yeah, exactly.
The friend asks him point blank, "Many people think that you feel that the black woman should, at a point, submission to the black man. Is that where you want to see black women in the 2026?
I'm going to push back incredibly hard on the author's logic here. Because the word submission is a radioactive term.
Oh, absolutely.
It carries centuries of agonizing historical and cultural baggage. It's inextricably linked to patriarchy, to silencing, and in the specific context of the black community, which he himself frequently references, it is inextricably linked to the literal chains of chattel slavery.
Yes.
How on earth does a man who claims to be breaking chains use the very word that forged them, while simultaneously calling these women worshipped masters?
Yeah.
The contradiction just feels impossible to reconcile.
It is a massive contradiction, and the author is acutely aware of it. He doesn't pretend the word is harmless.
Right.
In his response to his friend, he directly confronts the trauma embedded in the term. He acknowledges that the word does have a tendency to have a negative connotation for us because of how they were used against us during slavery.
So he knows the weapon is loaded, he knows the history. Why not just pick a different word? Why insist on using submission?
Because he is attempting what we might call an aggressive semantic renovation. He's trying to perform a hostile takeover of the English language.
A hostile takeover of a word.
Yes. Think about how difficult it is to change the meaning of a word that is steeped in power dynamics. He's looking at this word, submission, which has historically been a tool of subjugation. But instead of throwing the tool away, he wants to seize it, melt it down, and forge it into something else while keeping the exact same name.
Wow. In the poem, he actually refers to the old, painful definition of submission as a relic, a trap from the past, and a shadow from the chains.
And he explicitly states he is going to strip the chains from the core.
And he replaces that core with a completely new set of definitions. He defines his version of submission as cooperation, unity, agreement, purpose, and direction for the legacy they build.
Cooperation and unity.
But he is hypersensitive to the fact that people will just assume he wants traditional subservience. He paints a very vivid physical picture to deny this. He says, I don't think that anybody could say that my personality sounds like some man has me somewhere, curled around a wall and 10 paces behind me.
Oh, that image, walking 10 paces behind a man in the dust, that's the classic visual representation of patriarchal dominance. And he is rejecting that entirely.
Right.
He counters it with a different visual from his poem. Two hearts in rhythm, an agreement in the glory of the light.
He wants a strategic alliance, but let's actually analyze the power dynamic of this alliance, because even if he calls it unity, he is still asking the women to direct their energy toward the men.
Right.
And he uses this stunning quote to justify it. He says, we have power to make heaven and hell for our men. And I'm saying, let's try making heaven.
That phrase completely flips the traditional script of patriarchal submission.
It really does. Because if you have the power to make heaven or hell for someone else, you are the one holding the keys. You are the deity in that dynamic. Does he actually view women as the more powerful entity?
The text strongly suggests that he does. He views female power as immense, foundational, and environment shaping. He isn't asking women to submit because he believes they are inferior or weak. He's asking them to strategically channel their overwhelming power to resurrect the men in their community. He argues that if a woman uses this foundational power to support a man 100%, to actively build his confidence, quote, there is nothing on this earth that can stop his control.
It's as if he conceptualizes the woman as the engine and a man as the vehicle. Like the vehicle might be the thing seen moving on the road, it might be doing the steering, but without the internal combustion of the engine, it's just an inert piece of metal. It goes nowhere.
That is a very accurate reading of his mechanics. He states, all we need to do is to get our men to believe that they can do anything.
Right.
And he's making a fascinating, almost tragic psychological observation about the men in his community here. He's suggesting that their potential, their drive, and perhaps that their ego have been so deeply fractured by historical and systemic oppression that they require the unified, unyielding belief of their female counterparts to just function at their highest capacity.
And he's careful to say he isn't letting men off the hook for their flaws, right? He explicitly states he isn't exonerating them.
Right.
But he truly believes the catalyst for community resurrection lies in how women choose to deploy their power. He says, let's use it in a more positive way instead of just going for self.
And that phrase, going for self, is the bridge to his broader societal critique.
Because this isn't just a plea for romantic harmony. He is positioning this new definition of submission, this unity, as a direct weapon against the core values of modern capitalism.
Exactly. He moves from interpersonal dynamics to macroeconomics. He claims that his community has been fundamentally deceived by modern societal messaging.
Yeah, he writes that they have been brainwashed, bamboozled, lied to, and led to the street.
And what is the specific lie? He says they have been chasing the wrong paper.
Chasing the wrong paper.
The wrong paper represents the pursuit of individual financial wealth and career status at the expense of communal cohesion and family building.
He takes direct aim at the modern cultural mantra of independence. He writes, nobody told us that. All of that being my own person and I'm independent would lead to separation and loneliness.
He is identifying one of the greatest psychological paradoxes of modern hyper-individualism here.
Oh, absolutely.
Because capitalist society constantly feeds us the narrative that ultimate happiness is achieved through total autonomy, right? Financial independence, career supremacy, needing no one but yourself.
Yeah, being your own boss in every aspect of life.
Right. But he is arguing that this pursuit is a rigged algorithm.
A rigged algorithm. I like that much better than just calling it a Faustian bargain.
Well, it functions exactly like a poorly designed algorithm. If you program an AI to optimize purely for individual financial success, it will ruthlessly eliminate variables that slow it down.
Variables like compromise, vulnerability, and interdependence.
Exactly. The author is saying we have optimized ourselves for the pocket, and the inevitable output of that algorithm is isolation.
And he writes about the specific toll this takes on the modern dating market. He says that in order to achieve this level of success, quote, we had to give up the man.
He outlines a very specific dynamic where women achieve high levels of financial and professional success and subsequently struggle to find partners who can, in his words, compete with us on that level.
Right.
He points out the resulting friction where men are intimidated by the woman's financial superiority, leading to discord rather than unity.
And he issues a very stark warning about the criteria being used to choose partners.
Yeah.
He says, judging a man by his pocket, we lose the best of the breed.
The commodification of relationships.
Exactly. When you judge a human being by their pocket, You're reducing their entire worth, their character, their potential as a father or a partner to just a bank statement.
Yeah.
And he warns that if this financial metric becomes the sole baseline for connection, quote, none of us have no man. The community will literally die out because everyone is too busy protecting their individual autonomy to build a collective legacy.
And we really must interject a reminder here regarding our analytical approach for you listening. The author is presenting a highly specific, deeply personal socioeconomic critique.
Yes, definitely.
He is diagnosing the dating market and gender dynamics entirely from his perspective, based on his belief that prioritizing capital has fractured families. We are not validating this as objective sociological fact for all people everywhere.
No, we are just recognizing it as the central grievance that fuels his manifesto. He believes the pursuit of the dollar has created a hard width of loneliness.
Exactly, and because he believes the current system is producing nothing but isolation and brokenness, he doesn't think minor adjustments will fix it.
Right.
He believes the situation requires a radical, immediate spiritual intervention.
Which propels us right into the final and most visionary section of his text, the transition from social commentary to, prophetic declaration.
The tone of the manifesto shifts dramatically here.
It really does. He stops talking about dating in pockets, and he points to a very specific theological and historical marker. He literally instructs the reader to look up Genesis 15.13.
This is a heavy foundational text. Genesis 15.13 is a covenantal prophecy given to the biblical patriarch Abraham. In it, the divine voice states that Abraham's descendants will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, and they will be enslaved and afflicted for 400 years.
400 years. And then the author makes this massive, definitive declaration in the text. He writes, "We have been free of this oppression since 2019, the judgment in now."
Let's break down the significance of that date. The year 1619 is widely recognized as the year the first enslaved Africans were brought to the English colonies in Virginia.
Right.
The author is taking that historical event and mapping it directly onto the ancient biblical prophecy of Genesis 15.13.
1619 to 2019, exactly 400 years.
By linking these two timelines, he is doing something profoundly significant. He is not merely acknowledging history, he is declaring that the divine statute of limitations on their oppression has officially expired.
It basically operates as a spiritual ticking clock.
Yes, it removes the luxury of gradual change. If the 400 years ended in 2019, then the era of being the victim, the era of being scattered and broken, is historically and theologically over.
The judgment is now.
Exactly. The grace period for dysfunction has ended, and the immediate mandate is to rebuild.
And that urgency is the entire driving force behind his platform. The mission of the Voices of the Diaspora is built entirely on pivoting away from the trauma of the past. He writes, "Now we look forward and don't look back at the ashes."
Right.
And in the poem, he reinforces this. He says, "No looking at the ashes, no glancing at the rear. The vision is the future and the mission is clear."
He is demanding a cessation of historical grooving. The ashes represent the 400 years of affliction.
Yeah.
Acknowledging them was necessary, but staring at them now is just a distraction from the work of rebuilding.
He calls for the resurrection of the ancient race. He wants his community to break the chains of blindness and see who we really are, who our ancestors were. And the ultimate goal is to get back to love, unity, direction, purpose, building and creating, developing, growing, and shaping our own future.
It's a sweeping, monumental call for a complete cultural and spiritual renaissance. And it's fueled by a redefined unity between men and women, and legitimized by a divine prophetic timeline.
But, here is the lingering question I have about how he packages all of this. Because we are talking about 400 years of generational trauma. We are talking about apocalyptic timelines, spiritual judgment, rewriting the racial identities of biblical figures, and demanding a complete overhaul of gender dynamics.
It is the heaviest material imaginable.
Exactly. And yet, the platform he uses to deliver this is branded as "Welcome to Church" and "We Just Chillin'." I mean, how does "We Just Chillin'" possibly fit with a message about the ticking clock of divine judgment?
Well, that juxtaposition is the sheer brilliance of the royal jester archetype in action.
Really?
Yeah, it's his signature delivery mechanism. Think about it.
It's like subversive accessibility.
Precisely. Because think about how human psychology works. If someone approaches you on the street screaming about 400 years of oppression, the end of an era, and demanding that you completely restructure your relationship dynamics, what do? You
put up a wall. You cross the street. It's just way too intense.
Your defenses go up immediately. But if someone invites you to the porch, hands you a drink, and says, "Hey, we're just chillin', welcome to CHUCH," the defenses drop.
Oh, that makes total sense.
He wraps this intense, prophetic, revolutionary critique in the most conversational, accessible, street-level language possible.
Right.
He takes the heavy theology of the seminary and the global insights of his 66 countries, and he translates it straight to the nine, delivering it perfectly for the people on the block.
Welcome to Church isn't a rigid, formal cathedral with stained glass and an angry preacher. It's a community gathering. It feels safe, even while the ideas being discussed are designed to completely dismantle your worldview.
It perfectly encapsulates his entire journey. The boy from the Chi who rejected the classroom but thrived on the block has grown into a man who rejects traditional institutions but seeks to rebuild his community through conversational revelation.
We have covered an immense amount of conceptual ground today. We started by mapping the origins of man who rejected the traditional pathways of schooling and labor to maintain his autonomy. And we explored how he scaled that street-level hustle into a global journey, resulting in a theology that claims the historical narrative was fundamentally altered to protect the guilty.
And we analyzed his devastating critique of modern hyper-individualism, where he argues that optimizing our lives for financial independence has rigged the algorithm of human connection, leading to a profound loneliness.
And we unpacked his urgent prophetic demand for a cultural reset tied to a 400-year biblical timeline, which he believes can only be achieved if his community embraces a radical redefinition of unity.
Which brings us back to the most fascinating and honestly perhaps the most precarious pillar of his entire philosophy, the concept we discussed earlier, semantic renovation. The author's vision for the future relies entirely on his belief that he can take a word burdened by centuries of horrific trauma submission, strip the chains from it, and unilaterally declare that it now means cooperation and purpose.
He believes he can claim absolute authority over the language itself.
The provocative question this leaves us with, the concept to really carry with you as you leave this deep dive, is whether that is actually possible.
Right.
Can an individual, or even an entire community, successfully sanitize and redefine the historical baggage of a word, simply by declaring a new definition? Can you renovate the meaning of a word? Or does the shadow of the past, the original architecture of subjugation, always remain embedded in the syllables, just quietly waiting to reassert itself?
It's the difference between drawing a new optimistic border on a map and actually changing the rugged, dangerous landscape underneath it. You can call the territory whatever you want, but if the fault lines are still there, the ground can still shake. It's a massive question about the limits of language and the stubbornness of history.
Indeed it is. The map he has drawn is incredibly ambitious, but the territory is undeniably complex.
To you listening, thank you for joining us on this incredibly intricate, custom-tailored journey through the mind of the Royal Jester. We hope we've helped illuminate the fascinating architecture of this source material for you. And to borrow the Reverend Point Blank's own casual subversive sign-off, enjoy your time.
Step inside the sanctuary of the mind. I'm the Reverend Point Blank. You've reached the ticket to the nine, the space where legacy meets the lab.
I am the keeper of forgotten dynasties, the fire beneath buried empires, the breath returning to the stones of time.
Thank you and welcome to CHUCH. I am the Reverend Point Blank. Chill with the spirit, no rush, my friend. The world can wait. The seeds of truth don't bloom from hate. The spirit is always near. Open your spirit, and then you can see clear. When thunder roll and storms appear, still I whisper calm, because the spirit is right here. When time feels cruel and faith runs thin, when doubt creeps loud and shadows grin, don't fear the fall, don't drown in tears. Hold your breath, the spirit is right here. Not every battle needs a gun or a sword. These things may become blurred. True peace can be won with a single word. It's a quiet whisper, it's sweet and clear, it's steady, it's patient, because the spirit is right here. So take your time and rebuild your flame. The world will spin, but you must remain. Through silence and patience, you learn to wait. I walk this life honestly in God-given faith. And it's all crystal clear, because I never walk alone. The spirit is right here. So wherever I roam, it feels like home. I'm always on time, but never alone. I know something that God does.
And you can do greater. When you have the moment, you can check the book later. And even more, I know something best. You are God's own child, living in the flesh. Bad and good, anyone can switch. You must understand that karma is a bitch. But don't stop and quit. The spirit is always in the middle of it. And remember, death is guaranteed and life is not. So what are you going to do with the time you've got? Peace and love. Enjoy your time.
I thought I was alone. I thought I had wandered too far. I did not know that distance was never the measurement to you. You never forsook me, even when I didn't know you were near. Through all my sins and searching, through every wrong name I called out in fear, I built altars to shadows. I gave my praise to the wrong throne. But you stay close in the silence. You never once left me alone. I didn't deserve that mercy. I didn't even know to ask. But you loved when you breathed into me, long before I understood the task. You were always near, even when I couldn't feel it. You were always near, even when I couldn't see it. Through the gin and through the systems, through the lies and through the distance, every breath I took without you, you were breathing in the background. You were always near. Yahweh, you were always near. Oh. I called on names that couldn't answer. I knocked on doors that led nowhere. I followed every fragment, hoping someone somewhere truly cared. But every road I walked in darkness had your fingerprints along the walls. Every broken thing I stumbled through was already in your sovereign cause. I didn't deserve that mercy. I didn't even know to ask. But you love what you breathed into me, long before I understood the task. You were always near, even when I couldn't feel it. You were always near, even when I couldn't see it. Through the gin and through the systems, through the lies and through the distance, every breath I took without you, you were breathing in the background. You were always near. Yahweh, you were always near. I called you by the wrong name. You still answered. I praised what was not you. You still covered. Wandered into lower place. You still found me. You breathed your life into this vessel. You still own me. What kind of father stays when the child forgets his face? What kind of love remains through every wrong and every shame? Only Yahweh.
Welcome to CHUCH.